The second generation version of BMW's 2 Series Active Tourer 5-seat MPV now has a much more fashionable vibe. Yet it's even more practical and quite a lot cleverer too. A bit of a transformation's taken place here.
On the move, this car is thankfully still recognisable as a BMW, which, if you think about it, is quite a feat for something which also has to be a boring MPV. It's still front-driven, of course, as its predecessor was, but this time around it gets the same, more sophisticated FAAR platform which the brand uses for the 1 Series hatch, which also unlocks provision of 48-volt mild hybrid technology for the conventional petrol engines that most customers will want. There are two, and they both feature the company's latest generation twin-power turbo tech, 170 horsepower, 3-cylinder 1.5-litre unit for the 220i, and a 218 horsepower, 2-litre 4-cylinder engine for the 223i variant we're trying here. In either case, the mild hybrid system delivers a 19 horsepower boost from an e-motor that's mounted within the now mandatory new 7-speed Steptronic auto gearbox, and that's fed by a little 1 kilowatt-hour battery. This helps to power the car both when you're pulling away from a standstill and during mid-range acceleration, but it's too feeble to ever propel this BMW without the aid of an engine. The efficiency readings delivered as a result look okay at first glance, around 47 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and around 135 grams per kilometre of CO2 for both units, but in reality they're no better than you get from an unelectrified rival Mercedes B-Class, which might incline you to turn instead to one of the other powertrain options available. There's a single diesel variant, the 2-litre 150 horsepower 218D, which does without the mild hybrid tech. Or alternatively, if your wallet can stretch to them, BMW's offering a couple of plug-in hybrid active tourer variants, the 225e and the 230e. They both feature xDrive 4-wheel drive. As with the PHEV version of the previous generation model, they each use a powertrain based around the 1.5-litre 3-cylinder petrol engine we just mentioned, but in this 5th generation BMW eDrive form, it's mated to much gutsier electric motors powered by a 14.9 kilowatt-hour battery, which is twice the size of the one fitted to the old 225xe. That facilitates a 49-mile EV driving range, and those motors deliver potent power outputs, 245 horsepower for the 225e and 326 horsepower for the 230e. There's an air of confidence about this second-generation 2 Series Active Tourer, which was lacking from its rather apologetic predecessor. The alternative stretched 7-seat Grand Tourer body shape of the previous model has been abandoned, and in compensation, this remaining 5-seat version has grown in size and in visual sophistication. The MPV genre has died a slow, lingering death over the last few years, but it might just have a future looking something like this. The profile perspective best shows this car's slight expansion in size. It's 32mm longer and 21mm taller, and it proves you don't have to add SUV styling cues to make a car of this kind appear interesting, although we should point out that some of the previous rather frumpy look does return unless you stretch to the top M Sport trim level we have here. So, a fairly extreme evolution outside, time to take a look within. Get comfortable at the wheel and you'll find it's all quite different. If you happen to remember the previous model, the cabin is now an expression of what BMW likes to call progressive premium ambiance. Not only is that about impressive quality, but it feels rather refreshingly as if someone started completely from scratch with interior design here and tried to reimagine what the front of cabin experience offered up by a car of this kind ought to be. Now, key to that is the installation of the BMW curved display, a frameless glass panel angled slightly towards the driver, incorporating a 10.25-inch central screen that's seamlessly joined to a 10.7-inch instrument display. The other thing that you'll instantly notice is this floating central armrest with open storage beneath and a leading edge incorporating the primary drive buttons, a knurled volume roller and a neat tab-like minimalistic gear selector. You sit a bit higher than the norm on redesigned seats, offering an excellent all-round view. Plus, there's plenty of cabin storage and impressive build quality. from the Leipzig factory. Okay, time to take a look in the rear. Once inside, as promised, head, leg and elbow room are all marginally improved compared to the previous generation model. As before, the seats slide over a range of 13 centimetres, either together or individually with a 60-40 split, and they recline back through 4 positions. There's a low central transmission tunnel too, and that would make the inclusion of a third centrally seated occupant easier, although the person concerned would be unlikely to thank you for a position on this uncomfortably sculpted middle section of the rear bench. Let's finish with a look in the boot. Once the hatch is raised and accessible, usefully square cargo area is revealed, although the actual size depends quite a lot on the powertrain you've selected. Now, given the increase in size of this second generation model, it's disappointing to find that the maximum boot capacity that you can get from this model line is only 2 litres better than the previous design. And you only get that, which is a 470 litre total, if you specify the diesel version, which, by the way, is 90 litres more than the equivalent 1 Series hatch. Still, the sliding bench delivers lots of flexibility in the way you can use this space, and if you set the reclining backrest in its most upright cargo position, 90 more litres of storage space can be freed up, which might be just enough to get bulky suitcases in on an airport run, for example. If you need to flatten everything, you'll be disappointed to see that cargo sidewall retraction catches have been forgotten, so you have to stretch or go round to the side doors. Still, the total area provided should be as large as most owners will need: 1,455 litres with the diesel, 1,405 with the conventional petrol model, and 1,370 litres with the plug-in hybrids. The first generation 2 Series Active Tourer brought a bit of class to the 5-seat MPV segment, but it was rather plain and dumpy, both to look at and to drive. You'd be far more likely to covet this Mark II model were you to be a family customer whose need for a people carrier was somewhat uncomfortably paired with the need for a BMW. Enough to tempt you out of that fashionable mid-sized SUV you have in mind? Well, maybe, just maybe. Ideally, you choose one of the plug-in hybrids, which might even offer the ultimate combination of frugality, practicality and performance in a family car, but that would be a pricey step to take. Most will be satisfied with a more conventional drivetrain. They won't be getting the ultimate driving machine, BMW's famed advertising strapline, because that's not what they need. Getting instead what may very well be the ultimate small people carrier, though, could suit them very well indeed.